Hi, you're listening to We Found a Tape. This is James Ersted, director of What Happened to Suzy.
Hello, found footage fans, and welcome to We Found a Tape. We're a podcast dedicated to all things found footage. Shaky cams, paranormal sightings, and everything with an authentic edge to make it all feel real. My name's John,
And I'm David.
and join us as we hit play and uncover what lies beyond the tape. Welcome everyone to another episode of We Found a Tape. And today we're going to be talking about a relatively new movie that we've had the fortunate experience of seeing on Found TV, along with many other people, as this is the one of the most watched movies on Found TV and has been for quite some time since it's been released. And it's What Happened to Suzy from 2024.
Where did she go?
Where did she go? Hopefully today we find out.
Let's do it.
Right off the bat, I really enjoyed it. I liked the slow burn feel of it. It wasn't your typical monster or ghost tale or haunting or abandoned place. It was more grounded in reality a bit more, and that kind of stood out. Definitely blazes its own path along with some other slow burn found footage greats, because really there are quite a few. It's not the only one, but no, I really had a great time watching this.
It's really hard for me to stay engaged with slow burns. Like, there has to be something engaging, because I guarantee you I'll fall asleep within the first 5 to 15 minutes if it's just doesn't catch my attention. But this one kept me, entertained the whole way through, as far as, from start to finish. So it's really a good one. I quite enjoyed it myself.
So before we dive into this, why don't we start with a brief synopsis?
Synopsis me. Wait.
What Happened to Suzy is a psychological thriller that follows the mysterious disappearance of a young woman named Suzy. The deeper the investigation goes, the more unsettling the truth becomes.
And we're going deep.
Oh yeah. We're going Earth's lower core deep. Well, probably not that deep.
Yeah, I mean, I can't swim, dude. I gotta use arm floaty, so I don't know how deep we can go here. Oh man. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, the main thing I wrote was it reminded me of the last broadcast during COVID. Is what I wrote, and that was the main sort of thing that it reminded me of. It reminded me a lot of last broadcast. In terms of it being a slow burn, in terms of the sort of narrative that happens and the twists and turns in the story, which I think was quite good.
Yeah, you're right. So this was very, in the pandemic, everybody wearing masks, and this one played very true to where everybody was kind of overkill with the masks, where they were kind of wearing them outside next to each other and things like that. So it was like, showing that very early pandemic where people were kind of not aware of, what was going on at the time, what they should do and not do with the rules of the masks. So everybody was just kind of masked up, even outside, driving around, things like that. So, but yeah, this movie definitely had some twists and turns. You can tell, as they started this movie, they kind of, we're kind of interviewing, was it Andy, right? Andy's his name?
Yeah, and Andy or Andres.
Andres.
Andres Sanchez is his name.
Yeah. So Andres Sanchez was kind of doing this interview about his sister, because she had disappeared so many years ago when they were kids. And, as soon as they cut on the whole interview thing, the guy that was kind of like in the background kind of told him that, hey, I want to do a story about you. gives him his card, things like that, to help him find his sister. That's the whole, he says that he's trying to help him, but at the same time make a movie.
It looks like he was being interviewed for a TV show, which I wrote down. It was Missing or Murdered. Was the full?
That's
TV
right.
show
I remember the.
Yeah, I remember when I first started watching it. It starts with a hard start on Andy being interviewed, and the way that they're kind of treating him, kind of rubbed me the wrong way. They're being a bit overbearing and pretty rude, to be honest. Like the crew and the way that they were talking to him and sort of instructing him and like telling him to rephrase his questions, and he gets visibly frustrated. Which makes sense, man. It'd be the same, especially if you're going on to like plead a case to because your sister's missing and presumed dead. So,
hell yeah, I would have gone off too, man. They're just like being real fucking insensitive just for the sake of getting it, on film instead of, actually caring about what he had to say about his sister missing. So,
right, and that's where he meets Dawn. Dawn was a cameraman who was operating one of the cameras that was focusing on Andy, and when they're sort of taking off the mics and stuff, he goes up to him, and that's when he sort of leans in close and starts to say like, "Hey, like I'm really sorry about your sister, and like I'd like to help," and he gives him a card, and sort of that's where it goes from, and really the rest of the time it's through sort of Dawn's perspective is how I take it.
Right.
A lot of it's through Dawn's perspective. Is a lot of it his camera. He gives some film equipment to Andy and brings in Cynthia, who is like an intern film student type thing to help Dawn and with this little documentary project. So
you're right. So it kind of just takes off from there. Now, as far as I can see, you're right. So it's from Dawn's perspective. So they kind of started out. He's kind of in the same way he was kind of in, not as like rude or as mean, but still kind of treating him like, no, when you're speaking, you're not speaking to me, you're speaking to the camera. When he does that, it kind of pisses him off, and then at the same time he's asking him questions about his uncle, and right off the bat he don't want to talk about his uncle. It's a sensitive subject because his uncle's been where he's at. I think it's a state hospital that he's currently in, and it kind of rubs him the wrong way. So that interview / documentary / movie just doesn't go anywhere that first day because they really pissed off Andy. So he kind of just jets, and he got real triggered with that one as soon as they started asking about his uncle.
Yeah, because it seemed like him and his uncle got on really well. He
raised them, right?
Yeah, that's what seems to be the case here. His uncle was a wacky character, man. He was all about conspiracy theories and sort of thing. And the more, which I find quite interesting, based on how the sort of story progresses. Once you know what happens, you piece together some of the things that were said, some of the events that happened, and they sort of tie in, and you kind of say, okay, I can see, I can understand the ending a bit more now, from the aspect of Dawn. He's very much, how can I describe it? Push and pull. So he's sort of pushing information out there for Andy to react to, or provide him with information, and he's also sort of pulling the strings to like pull him in a direction that he wants him to look or wants him to go. Basically, kind of controlling the narrative that's happening here under the guise of a Filipino hacker, which I thought was quite funny.
Very specific.
Yeah, but as we go through the story, we see a lot of things happen. Andy witnesses his uncle being attacked in prison, and ultimately killed and left in an unmarked grave in some psychiatric hospital, which is messed up. So
and just to add some context to that, so the uncle actually got killed and strangled in prison. So somewhere between the movie, they go to the Don with the Filipino hacker. Coincidentally, had the storage room number and everything, and he had a lot of information, which kind of seemed a little sketchy. He had a lot more information than he should have. And they find the uncle's laptop and some stuff in there that belonged to his sister and him as well. But he found emails from this email address from a guy named Frank. So he had actually responded to that email, and that pissed off Don a lot, because he was like, well, these people could come after us and this and that, and he just got like, he turned completely 180 and fucking just started going off. What I did notice, though, in that scene right there where he was getting mad and asking him, did you respond to the email? Did you respond to the email? They're kind of looking from the camera, like if it's through a peephole or through like a spy camera. You pointed that out when we had watched it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I didn't understand if that was something that Don had set up in the room as a, just kind of an overall visual of the room, or somebody was actually watching the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I took that as like some sort of spy camera to like document what was happening in the room. I guess to keep tabs on Andy and the investigation and stuff like that. Yeah, it was it was quite the deception in the end.
The guy that played the uncle was like spot on. Like, walked in and said, I need you to be the eccentric uncle that's just like a whole fucking order of French fries short of a Happy Meal. Like, that guy pulled it off very well, from like the whole cross-eyed look to the funky hair, like the paranoia and everything like that, where he was kind of like talking to him like this, and doing a lot of hand gestures. Like, he did it really well. Like, that guy was spot on.
Oh no, absolutely. He played a great sort of paranoid, delusional nutcase uncle, like a stereotypical like crazy ass uncle. Which you're right. It was very good, very well acted from his part. It did feel very real. It was grounded in reality. We did, like you said, we saw people wear masks and stuff like that around, and it was I believe filmed during COVID. So, and there was a fair few COVID movies that came out, that referenced it specific while they were filming it. Host, Paranormal Activity, Next of Kin are two of the ones that come to mind. So, yeah, no, I had a really good time watching it. If you're a fan of these sort of thriller movies, it's not so much any other type of paranormal or anything like that. Found footage film, it definitely stands out, and it's definitely worth a watch if you're into that sort of thing. The main things, or the main movies that sort of I felt similar after watching, and the sort of way it was portrayed kind of reminded me of was, as I said last broadcast, but also Megan is Missing, believe it or not.
Right.
Just the way it's an investigation type thing, and the way that it happens, and I mean, there's no mistake that they're all about people that have gone missing and they're trying to find them,
Right.
So it definitely follows that formula, but it's the delivery in which that happens. There's aspects and elements of both these films that I found myself seeing in What Happened to Suzy.
Yeah. This one really went really well for me too. All the way through, it really kept you on the edge of your seat as a true, thriller. It is a slow burn, but it does, keep you on the edge of your seat to what's happening next.
Everything else was very, very tightly wrapped in terms of the story. It drip fed information as it went along, which, it was supposed to do, and then kind of at the end, it just, you find out like what you find out, and then that's kind of it. There's a slight scene after, and you see sort of some of the tapes that I noticed, and some of the names in it, Andy and Cynthia and all that, and then there's some other names that you didn't really know from the story. So I mean, it could have been, this guy's just some sort of family annihilator type
Right.
person who just, worms his way into families and kind of torments them through starting at the weakest point, which is the kidnapping of a child and presumably murdering them. So, but honestly, for me, I think it's definitely worth a rating of 4 tapes for me. 4 tapes out of 5. I genuinely had a good time watching it. It was I thought it was paced well. It is a slow burner, like we said, but I feel like it was paced fairly well. It runs in at about an hour 34, and it kind of felt like that, But no, loved it. Definitely recommend it, and I can see why people are loving it on Found TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of like in the middle between 4 and 5. Like I'd probably go at a 4 just because of the whole story at the ending. But I mean, it sits very good at a 5 too. So I don't know. I'm kind of like bouncing back and forth. But I mean, at this point, if I'm not completely sure, I would say 4 tapes just because I can't make the decision on 4 or 5. But yeah, I would think the same thing too. The story was well done, minus that little bit. The whole playing mind games with him, having him eat out of the palm of his hand with the information that he was giving him. Um, the interviews with the uncle, the finding the little bits and pieces here in the storage room, everything. The movie was solid all the way around, and there's not many slow burns out there that can catch my attention. So kudos to the director.
And speaking of the director, we're going to be chatting with James Ersted, who is the director of What Happened to Suzy, and you'll want to stick around for that.
So kick back, put your feet up, grab yourself a drink, and tune in.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're joined by James Ersted, the director of What Happened to Suzy. I first want to start by saying that this was a wild ride. I had a great time watching What Happened to Suzy, and I first want to congratulate you on the success of it, because it's been on the top list of the most watched on Found TV for quite some time. So congratulations on that. How does it feel to have such support for the movie?
Well, it feels really good. You never know making something, especially a found footage film, if it's just going to get completely panned or not. There's a lot of detractors. So the fact that it's doing as well as it is, I have a lot to be grateful for.
For me, I hold on to it quite a bit. So if I find a good one, I tell a lot of people about it. So for me, this is going to be one of those.
Wow, that means a lot.
If it's not the first movie that pops up, it's one of the first movies as an option. So
yeah, thank you very much. I think people appreciate that it's a little bit different than your standard found footage film. I have nothing against the supernatural stuff. I love the supernatural stuff, but there's a lot of it, and
right.
There's not a lot of mystery, horror, and thriller in the genre.
Now that you mentioned that, was there something that pushed you towards making a movie specifically about a missing person? That aside from, I know you mentioned that it's pretty common to see paranormal, demonic possession, found footage movies, things like that. But was there something that kind of pushed you more in that direction, specifically as a missing person found footage movie?
Well, I was talking to my co-writer, Dave Larson. We were actually developing this film before the pandemic. We kind of had this idea. I don't want to give too much away, I guess. We sort of had this idea for a movie, and but it wasn't really working. It wasn't really working pre-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pandemic hit, and then we realized, oh wow, we have the story that now is like so much better because of the pandemic, will work so much more effectively because of the pandemic. We really leaned into the conspiracy theories and just a lot of the stuff that people were doing during lockdown, and sort of just the disillusionment that people were feeling and everything. We really wanted to tap into that, and we basically started the first draft like right at the beginning, of 2020, and then wrap that up early 2021. In fact, right around the time of the insurrection in the United States, that's when we had a first draft. When that happened, it was like January 6th. We had a first draft.
Right.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Yeah, and then we just sort of like, just did some rewrites on it and everything, and but we shot it during the pandemic. It was still going on, so it's a real pandemic movie. It's not. If you look in some of the scenes, you'll see a bunch of people masked up.
Yeah.
And those aren't extras. Those are just people walking down the street.
And I really got that feeling throughout the whole movie. It was really a pandemic movie, and in some ways it kind of like triggered like some trauma of mask wearing, because I was not a fan of wearing masks. So it's kind of like, I could feel like the claustrophobia a little bit in the movie watching it, because I hated wearing a mask, and for stupid reasons too. I mean, and to go into places where you weren't even close to people and things like that. So that definitely tapped into that part of my brain for me when I was watching the movie.
Yeah, good luck getting one of those things on me now. I had a certain amount of trauma, from having to wear that a mask all the time, and during filming, and even outside, and you know what I mean. And that's one fear I had making the movie. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna re-traumatize the audience here. They don't want to think about all that shit we went through, And here I am, sort of like putting it right in their face, And what's interesting too is there's some stuff that, had I not made a movie, I might not even really remember. And one of those things is, early on, people were also wearing gloves. It wasn't masks. People were walking around in gloves, and washing their vegetables. There was a bunch of stuff happening early on in COVID, that made it into the movie. Again, like stuff I don't like to remember, stuff I don't like to think about. But
I think there was this one time I went to a Walmart, and I came across this elderly lady, and it was early on in the pandemic. Full rubber gloves, mask, and then a full clear face shield on top of the mask, and she was covered like full sweater, pants. No part of her skin was visible anywhere aside from what you can see in the eyes under the shield. And I was like, wow, that lady's like going to battle, like she's going to like during warfare, because she was, oh god, that was crazy.
Yeah, some people who are immunocompromised were really freaking out, like they should have been. But yeah, I remember taking a hike somewhere, wearing gloves, like 2 masks. You know what I mean? Like it was insane.
Oh, yeah.
Insane when I think about that. Because we didn't know really what was going on yet.
Right.
We were still trying to figure it out. We didn't know how it was transferred. You know what I mean? So everybody's just being like extra cautious in the very beginning.
And as well, I think from a movie industry perspective, I think a lot of good really came out of that. There was a lot of really good horror movies that I think were bred from that. One of them in particular was Host, which was a favorite of mine. I love that movie so much, and that was one that was filmed in the middle of COVID.
I haven't watched any of those. I intentionally avoided them because I didn't want to be influenced.
Another one for me is Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I actually haven't seen any of the sequels. I like the first one a lot. I kind of left it at that. I'm not a big sequels person, so I mean that's not true. I mean, if we're talking about 80s horror, I am, but I would say more recent. Like I'm not 2000s and on. I'm not really a sequel guy.
And one thing I'm curious of is in terms of your influences, were there any, whether that is particular filmmakers or particular movies, were there any that influenced the styling of the movie at all?
You're going to find this, I think, a little surprising, but I don't know when you watched Citizen Kane last.
It's been a long time.
You might want to give it another viewing, because there's a mockumentary element in that film, and it is definitely the first example of found footage.
Okay.
Citizen Kane, which is like, one of the most famous films of all time, but there's a lot in there. There's like interviews, long takes, There's like stuff that like you look, you kind of makes you go give it a second look. You're like, wait a minute, what year is this? You know what I mean? It's but anyway, so there is some influence from Citizen Kane and what happened to Suzy. Of course, I like the stuff that now we would label found footage. You know, so of course the Blair Witch Project. You know, that was very influential. I don't think my film really has any aesthetic relationship to that film, but it was sort of the one that I watched that I saw the potential in the genre.
Right.
And I was like, oh, there's a lot you can do with this, and you can do it for a lot less money.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely the selling point of found footage, the return of it and the upfront cost of filming a thing like that. It's definitely on the lower end of the spectrum for sure. One of the particular there's two movies that I took from what happened to Suzy that I felt were similar in nature, or gave me the same sort of sensibility in terms of how I felt after watching them. One of them was The Last Broadcast, which is in terms of the twists that sort of happen throughout the film is one that I found to resonate quite a bit.
Could I say something about that real quick?
For sure, yeah.
Like one of the only films I didn't watch before I made the movie.
Interesting.
So I was making sure to kind of watch everything. You know, there's stuff that I'd missed, like, you know, Creep, for instance, is one that I watched during the pre-production process. Last Broadcast was on my list, but I didn't get to it.
Wow.
And then after we wrapped production, I did. And I was like, oh, God damn it. Because that's the only one that I missed. And I was like, I would have definitely made some changes. No, I kind of debate, like, am I better off? You know what I mean? Like, is it good that I didn't see it? You know what I mean?
I think so. Yeah, I think from what's come out of the movie itself is something that's it's definitely unique to what we see now, but it has that sort of sensibility that you almost get drawn to when you're making a found footage. Like that's one of the early sort of Godfather types of the found footage genre. It was around the same time as Blair Witch,
Yes.
and it was round about the time when there was sort of this lack of technology, and they were sort of pushing forward this type of technology that is now incredibly common. But back in 96, 97, when they made it, like it was like state of the art type.
Right.
thing.
Right. You know, and it wasn't Strawberry Estates. I don't know if you're familiar with the found footage film called Strawberry Estates.
I have seen that, yeah.
So they got wind of the Blair Witch Project, and they basically tried to rip it off.
Okay.
And release it before the Blair Witch Project came out.
That makes sense.
So, but the Last Broadcast it is a sincere attempt. You know what I mean, at the genre. It's I love the Blair Witch Project. I think Last Broadcast is okay. You know, but it's an important film.
Yeah, I agree. It's very much an important one, and one I've told a few people to check out, especially if they're fans of found footage and they're kind of looking to go back a little bit and kind of see a bit more of the, I guess, older stuff. It's some things I definitely recommend. I think it's the guy's voice is what kind of draws it out a little bit too much for me, but I think it's so monotone throughout the whole thing that you're just like,
you know, you might have to edit this out because there's going to be spoilers, or maybe I'll just say there's going to be spoilers so that if somebody doesn't want to, you know what I mean, have the movie room, they can mute. So I'm watching Last Broadcast, and I see where it's going. And I'm like, oh no, you got to be kidding me. It can't be going in the direction I think it's going. you know, and then I'm kind of honing in on the monotone voice, and I'm like, oh no,
Oh shit.
this guy's a psychopath. I knew it. This guy's a psychopath. He's pulling the strings, you know what I mean? And on a scale from 1 to 10, like how defeated did I feel? You know, like not a 10, but it was like a 6. You know, it was like I was like, I can't believe like the similarities. But I can look. There are thousands, there are millions of films made, and there's so many ideas out there, and the idea that somehow you're going to do something that nobody's ever done or come close to before.
And it's also interesting as well because I mean, people can't say that you've just copied the last broadcast because you didn't watch it till after the fact. So that's your name's been cleared right away.
Yeah, I really didn't. Again, I don't know if I had, you know, if I had the story, basically, if I had the script and I watched it, and I might not have made the film. To be honest with you, I might not have made the film. So I don't know. It seems to be that it's good that I didn't, based on the reception I'm getting. I mean, what if I release it and everybody's like, "Oh, this guy, he totally ripped off the last broadcast. Like, what an idiot!" You know what I mean? Like, what if that happened? That'd be horrible. You know.
Yeah.
So likely that didn't happen. I think they're obviously very different films. They're obviously different.
Yeah, for sure.
With some major things in common.
Yeah, for sure. And really, it's they're like you said, they're two completely different films. And it was just when watching it, I was like, I felt the same way I did when watching last broadcast in a way, particularly towards the end where things start to tie in together. You're just kind of like, oh, so okay, yep. But I did write in my notes when we were watching it. We watched it together, and I was like, this cameraman is doing a bit too much for my liking.
Don's a little fishy.
So I was like, I'm gonna note that down, and then I was like, oh yeah, okay. But
you know, I mean, it works. It works for some people. It doesn't work for others. You know, the majority of people that watch it like don't fully catch on. Some people do, and typically, if they do, they enjoy the film a lot less. But I'm going to say there's more to it than they're actually missing quite a bit. They're sort of just looking at it, you know what I mean, on the surface. There's actually a lot of depth to the film. So it's not just about, you know, the twist, right?
Of course, yeah.
It was challenging because I wanted to make it obvious and I wanted to give people a fair shot at figuring it out. I didn't want to pull a Fight Club bullshit ending where all of a sudden you just pull the rug from under people and you're like, yeah, this other thing's been going on the whole time. And it's like, well, you gave me no chance to figure that out. You just like all of a sudden you're just like, oh, this is how it is. You know what I mean? I like a mystery that I can actually solve. It's got to be fair. So I gave people a lot of opportunities to solve it. And Don, and I was playing the Don card. I was like, he's gonna be like the whole time, like right on the edge. Like I was hoping that like he could be so suspicious that people would start to go, it can't be him.
Right.
You know? And for some people that is how they experience the film. And that's sort of the intended way, you know, but yes, I was taking risks. I wanted to just push it to the, you know what I mean?
For sure. It definitely, it wasn't like, it was sprinkled very well throughout to cast doubt on him for sure. That's what it was for me. I felt like there's a bit of doubt being cast on his intentions, and it definitely comes through in a not necessarily I was going to say tasteful way, but like it comes through well. It translates well within the film. Those breadcrumbs that you're kind of leaving in, it does, you kind of question yourself, like he'll do something and then he'll do something to redeem himself, which is what kind of puts you back and forth, like the reaction when his the intern is laying on the ground with her tongue cut out, like, you know, he's like, the first thing's like, we need to call the police right now. If this guy had done this, why would he want to call the police? But he is calling the bluff here for Andres. So
yeah, he's a professional gaslighter.
Exactly, a professional gaslighter. Oh, brilliant! Another one for me, just before we move on to some more questions, another one for me that I took away is kind of Megan is Missing is another one that I that sort of mystery behind, you're trying to find out what's happened to this person, like that sort of feeling and the way it's portrayed and in some of the conversation. That's another the movie that comes through. It's not as shocking to the extent, like it's not as visually shocking and to that extent, but definitely from that sense of dread throughout where someone is missing.
I actually haven't seen Megan is Missing. I've heard a lot about it. When did that come out?
In the 2000s for sure.
Oh, it's an older film. Wow.
Is it maybe like 2016 maybe?
Yeah, it is in. Yeah,
I didn't see, what was the other one? Dark Web.
Unfriended Dark Web.
Yeah, the first one. Is that the first one in the series?
Second one is Dark Web. The first one is Unfriended. That's more of a supernatural one.
Yes, Unfriended. But anyway, I that came out a long time ago. Like 2006 or somewhere around there? It was a while back.
It
Something
was a
like
while
that, like
ago.
2006, 2008.
I don't know how I missed that one. I really liked that movie. And I didn't watch it until 2020, and I'm like, I thought, and honestly, I was like, oh, this must have just come out last year or something, because I've never heard of it. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, 2006 or whatever. I'm like, where was I? What was I doing? How did I miss this? So, I mean, it just goes to show, just the amount of stuff that's out there. It's impossible to watch it all.
Oh, it really
Megan
is.
is Missing is definitely one I have to check out, because I've it's one of those ones you'll see on the message boards and stuff, and people are either obsessed with it or they can't stand it. It's those are the best films in my opinion, though. It's those ones that you know what I mean, are divisive.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's because it's triggering something at the audience member's core. people hate things, but hate's a strong emotion. You know what I mean? And when you're a filmmaker, when you're a storyteller, it's not the worst thing. The worst reaction is meh.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And with me and on my side with Megan is Missing, it's not that I hate the film, it's just very unsettling for me that it's not one of the first movies I would go out and watch again, because there's unsettling parts to it.
Yeah. The last 20 minutes is probably one of the more uncomfortable parts, because, and I think it's the way it's portrayed. It says this last portion is not edited, so you immerse yourself in this is more realistic, and it's done in a way that is supposed to make you feel uncomfortable. And it's a PSA for parents to make sure your children are safe online, and that's really the it drew influence from a real life case where it's not as Hollywood as Megan is Missing, but it did draw influence. There was a man who his daughter was kidnapped, murdered by a person that she met who was online, and the film was supposed to be like a PSA. And Michael Goy is the filmmaker. I don't know that he's done much else after that. He does a lot of.
What's the name of this film that you're talking about?
Megan is Missing.
Megan is Missing. Okay,
it was done as a PSA for.
No way.
Children's
holy cow,
safety online, and it's polarizing for sure.
Oh yeah, wow. Well, people are really afraid of the truth,
Yeah. So that's kind of where, and this is it's drilled in reality. Everyone is, and this was made 2011. I looked up there. It came out 2011, so it was probably around about 2010-ish when they made it. So it's not new, but it's been doing the rounds more so in the last 5 or so years within the sort of found footage community. Another movie that comes to mind with that is the Poughkeepsie tapes, which is another one that
I have seen that one. Yes,
it's sort of driven in that realistic standpoint. So,
that's not my favorite. It's probably the closest to Suzy that I found when I was, watching all the films, in terms of just like, uh, its substance, what it's made of.
Right.
It's everybody has an opinion. You know what I mean? And when it comes to found footage, like, it's kind of crazy the stuff you'll hear, because you'll hear like polar opposite opinions about the same thing. I'll read reviews about Suzy, and one person saying, "Wow, the acting is really great. It's so realistic," and then someone else will say, "The acting is so bad. It's so fake. Found footage should be all improvised lines. Like there shouldn't be any written dialogue." It's like people obviously have very strong opinions, about the genre. Can I share something about that I think is entertaining?
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So hold up. For the most part, like the reviews that have been coming in have been very, very good for Suzy. Majority positive, and then there's some in the middle, and then there's a few detractors. But it kind of is like, I get 3 good reviews, I get like a mediocre one, I get a bad one, and that's sort of the pattern. So, but this one guy, he's my first half-star review and he's not using his real name, but anyway, check this out. So he for some reason watches a lot of found footage, and he gives everything a half a star or 1 star. And I'm like, what? Why do you watch this genre if you just hate it? Like watch a comedy, man. So here's the first one. So The Purging Hour, 2015, half a star. His review reads, "Fucking stupid." What Happened to Suzy, 2024, half a star. His review reads, "Don't waste your time." Third review, what is this one? Oh, Meanwhile on Earth, 1 star. His review, "I didn't get it." Next review, Introducing Yell. His review, "So stupid." Nurek, The Curse. His review, "Boring." Followers, 1 star. His review, "Fucking terrible." Next movie, Untitled Footage, 1 star. Not scary at all. Next movie, The Cemetery is About to Begin, 1 star. Fucking terrible. Here's his first, like, sort of somewhat positive review, right? It's this movie called Deep Fear. I have no idea. He gave this one 3 stars. I mean, this must be like Taxi Driver or something. He just writes, "Zombie movie or zombie Nazis?" ? Then he watched The Human Centipede, 1 star. Laugh out loud. Oh, what? And then finally, dude, a perfect review, a 5-star review. Okay, The Gorge. Here's your review. You ready for his review? Wow. Fucking awesome. And that's it, dude. It just goes on and on like that. I'm like, wow, man. So I friended him on Letterboxd. Just
nice.
To cheer him up a little bit. You know what I mean? A clock is right. What do they say? 2 times a day?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Anyway. Letterboxd is a breeding ground for either love or hate for movies, and I started using it maybe about a year ago. I was wanting to keep track of the movies that I had watched, so I was like, okay.
To be fair, it's not as bad as Reddit. That's one that I just started using. I've never used Reddit before. And, as part of the promotion stuff for this movie, I was like, okay, I got to get on Reddit. So, just put some press releases out there and stuff, let people know the movie's, out now. I did that, and just, wow, man, the negativity there. Like, people are just like, they just want to like argue, you know what I mean? Like, and they pile on, so in fact, I kind of like initially posted some things on Reddit, and then I had an issue with my account, so I couldn't log in, and so I was off of it for a long time. And on Letterboxd, I noticed this, like I told you what the pattern is, sort of like with the reviews that come in, like, and I don't mind the negative ones. I'm totally fine with that. They don't even have to give like a in-depth review or anything. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I did notice in this a couple days ago where just this flood of bad reviews came in on the movie, and I'm like, that's weird. It was like 6 in a row. It was like 1 and 2 star kind of reviews, and they were all basically saying the same thing, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I'm like, So I went to like Facebook, and I'm looking there, and I'm like, so I don't know, maybe just the only people that are rating it are the people that didn't like it, because like there's a very wide range, you know what I mean? And I just found it strange. And then I started to think, oh my God, what if these people are coming from Reddit? So I pop onto Reddit. It's been a couple of weeks. I haven't been on there. And I find it. I find and it just, right when those bad reviews came in, there was a pile-on Reddit. And they were all trying to outdo each other about how predictable it was. And it was just like, you know, 8 dudes or 10 dudes or whatever, just like saying the same thing. And it's like trying to outdo each other, who could be meaner. You know what I mean? And those reviews came in like, so I don't know if that happens with positive things too on Reddit, or if it's just negative, but it was like, I could pinpoint it. And that's one of them. That's because I had a lot of friends that I was like, oh, check out the movie. And if you like it, you know what I mean? Review it. That's kind of like, that's all I say. But I had some people come back to me and go like, well, do you want me to give it like 5 stars? And I'll give it a 10. I'm like, no, I just, if you liked it, give it a review. That could be a 6 out of 10. That's fine. You know what I mean? Like just be honest. I don't like this. One review on Letterboxd, somebody just left a 1-line review, and they said these reviews must be fake. They were the first person that didn't like the film or something. They gave it like 1.5, and they said these reviews must be fake. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess they could be. That'd be kind of crazy, but it sounds like it's a real thing.
So you can buy Instagram followers, you can buy Twitter followers, you can buy pretty much anything. You can make bots to, like your videos and stuff. We're in that day and age now. So
yeah, it's no good.
No, but no, I mean, I would rather make a film that 10 people watched and legitimately gave proper feedback, like rather than just
you use more than 3 words. It was fucking awesome or piece of shit. You know what I mean?
Wait, it's not good. It's not
my
good.
buddy, like my new friend on Letterboxd. King of the 3.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That's so good. Like anything more than 3 stars gets more than 3 words.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
Comes to that, especially from like the social media generation, and that's what kind of makes like a lot of screen life movies like have come out of in the last 10, 15 years, sometimes even longer. One of the earlier screen life movies that I personally enjoy is the Collingswood Story. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it was made in like 2001. I don't know if I can't remember if they're a couple or not, but it's a guy and a girl. They're speaking through like a chat room, and they've got their early 2000s webcams, and they're like,
wait a minute, what's it called?
Speaking to each other. It's called the Collingswood Story.
Dang.
And it's mostly
similar, but I didn't watch the whole thing. I feel like it was something that was like on Shudder. You know how they have the TV kind of channel, and they just have something playing. I feel like it was one of those situations. And I saw something that sounds very similar to what you're describing, but maybe it was just somebody that ripped it off.
Maybe potentially, yeah, it could be. I personally enjoyed it. Like it's a good sort of early 2000s found footage movie that they're talking online on a webcam, so it's very much sort of character driven, and they try and do this like sort of seance type thing.
Host. That's very Host.
Yeah, it's very much like Host, and they like basically like go into this chat room and you can get like your tarot read by this like creepy man and stuff like that, and then they sort of start to see them like pop up more and more, and then they're like, whoa, what the fuck something's going on here, and then they're it's pretty good. I got a Blu-ray. It's one of the ones I definitely tell people. I think it's an underrated thing. One thing we like to do for the channel as well is we like to post underrated like gems that I've seen or that David's seen that people don't really talk about, and that for me was one of them. I think that was on my first list of like underrated gems. So like we're on part 6 now, so we're going to continue doing that. So we post that on our Instagram page of just to point out some of the found footage movies that don't get as much love. but
Yeah, that's
are really
great.
good. So
I mean, I think there's a good chance of found footage sort of getting lost in the shuffle, especially because they're competing against $1 million pictures, $1 million horror films. It's yeah, I can see them getting lost, and a lot of people have an aversion to them, and film festivals too have an aversion to the genre. So there's a lot of good stuff that people just don't give a chance to.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought up unnamed footage fest.
Yeah.
That's I mean, pretty much the whole thing is geared towards that, the sort of found footage genre. One of the I think they're a sponsor. It's an Instagram page called Only Found Footage Fans.
Oh yeah.
They have an extensive knowledge of in-world screen life found footage type movies that they're always
I don't know them personally. They comment occasionally on my stuff, and I like some of their, you know what I mean. But I'm just kind of I'm not a big social media guy, so this is all kind of new.
Sure.
I grew up in the punk rock scene, and there was a lot of like organizing, and you know what I mean. There's like a do-it-yourself attitude, and the found footage community has that spirit, So I really like it for that. It feels like independent. It feels like open-minded.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, for sure. It's and we've been doing this podcast since kind of early January is when we started really like getting the stuff out there. We spoke about this for such a long time, and it got to the point where we were like, let's just fucking do it, right? And that's it's almost we've been welcomed in because of we have that kind of mindset, because that's a very found footage thing, right? Like it is very much a genre that accepts people that are thinking in that sort of manner. Like we're all, like you said it perfectly, punk rock is kind of how I took it. And
like horror films are like rock and roll, right? But like found footage is like punk rock. Found footage is hardcore punk, like LA punk, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Black Flag.
Yeah.
Horror films like the Stooges. Everybody loves the Stooges, but
Ramones.
Yeah.
That type of thing. Like you get you've got the mainstream punk, but then you have like the hardcore punk scene where everyone's fucking nuts, and Henry Rollins is punching people in the face. Like that's what I'm all for that. Hell yeah. And just saying that out loud, how fucking badass would it be to see Henry Rollins in a found footage movie?
Yeah, I'd love to work with him. I've been in contact with him before. I'm in Los Angeles, so I've set things up, and I've worked on a lot of larger productions and things like that. So I do find myself in connection with these people sometimes. I don't know if you noticed this, but there's a cameo in there in What Happened to Suzy from Betsy Baker. She played in the original Evil
Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. No.
Yeah.
No, I didn't notice that.
I think the character's name's Linda. Is that right? I can't remember, but the girlfriend. Yeah. She's the interviewer. She's the one giving the interview to Andy at the very beginning of the movie. That's Betsy Baker.
Okay.
Up on that. Wow.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
it's kind of a fun little thing. But I've worked with her on other shorts and things like that I've made. And I just try to put her in everything, But yeah, Henry Rollins is on my list, and he's
Hell yeah.
Sort of in my community, so maybe it'll happen someday. Yeah, make sure one of these found footage films.
Oh, that would be awesome. I think especially it's going to be like such a great statement of Henry Rollins, one of the pioneers of fucking LA punk, and
the big achievement would be actually get Glenn Danzig to do it. I don't think he.
Oh wow!
I love the Misfits. I can't watch those movies.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Have you seen both? Have you seen both of them?
No, I've seen part
one. The first one, right? You just watched the. Well, here's the thing: the first movie he made, it's actually like 10 times better than the second movie he made. And if you've seen the first one, but it turned out to be the best one of the three by far. You know what I mean? So it's one of those situations, and that happens a lot when you watch like trilogies, or not trilogies, but what's the word I'm looking for? That creep show format.
Anthologies.
Yeah, anthologies. When I watch anthologies, that can be the problem with them, right? Is you have one that's really awesome, like so good, and then one that's really bad, and one's that's like kind of like mediocre,
Right.
Yeah, pull it off. It's tough, but a couple have like Creepshow's great. Creepshow 2's pretty good, but you know what's really good? My favorite, Tales from the Dark Side.
Oh
yeah.
One, oh my god,
that's good. Yeah,
those are. I think it's 3 stories in that one too, right? 3 bangers, man. That's
one of my favorites is Tales from the Hood.
Yeah, it's fun.
That for me is a great anthology.
Right. No, I dig it. I watch them all. I watch all those anthology movies, and it's like found footage. Actually, I'm the same way with found footage because I usually don't like them. Like I like them, but I don't like them at the same time. Right? It's really it's like pizza. You know what I mean? Like even when it's bad, it's still pretty good. It's like
Right.
Pizza. Yeah. So I'll watch kind of like all the found footage and all the anthology stuff I can, and probably end up liking 2 out of 10, I'd say.
Totally. Yeah. And the VHS movies are great examples of found footage anthology, where a lot of them, there's some really good standout ones, and then there's some you're kind of like you're kind of pushed and pulled between different countries and different languages and different origins and different styles, and from that aspect, some of them are definitely better than others. My personal favorite, VHS 99.
I did like that one. I was a little bit hesitant going in, but I did like it. I thought it was really cool. They did a lot of interesting degraded footage stuff in that one.
Yeah. 94, I think, was it came out before that, and going into 99, I was like, I hope it's good.
Yeah,
I've watched all of them now, and for me, that's my favorite. I think for that, all of the stories I think felt like you've just popped in a VHS tape, and I think that's the sensibility of the entire franchise that they're really going for. Some of them don't feel that way, and that kind of takes me in and out. I appreciate them. I love it. Whenever a new one comes out, I'm excited for it. VHS Beyond was another one I'm actually excited to rewatch. I think it was there's definitely similar to the rest of the franchise. There's standouts.
You know what would be cool, man, and we're living in the age of technology. If they let you do your own VHS remix, so you go to a website and you're like, I want this story, that story, that story, and then you could make your own movie. Because I do feel like, I think you're right about that there are some really great ones and there's some that are okay, but you could make like the ultimate mix, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think horror fans would appreciate that.
That'd be a great promotional campaign for sure.
Yeah, mix pro, you know. See, and then you could even hold a contest, like who has the best mixtape.
Ooh.
Yeah.
There you go. Shudder.
Yeah.
Never get on this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then that movie, that compilation or whatever that people would create would be, some of the best content possible, right? Because curated.
Exactly. Yeah. Curated.
I watched some really good docs, and I'm like, but they've like ruined movies for me.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, so I kind of had to stop watching them because it's like, I don't know, like it's almost like they need to put a list of all the films they're going to talk about. You know what I mean? So if there's one you really want to see, it's like, oh, well, I'll avoid that episode. You know what I mean? Because I tell you, man, I think it was like the 3rd or 4th time it happened. They're showing this really cool like Korean film. And I'm like, this is fucking badass. And then they give away the twist, and I'm like, you assholes! Like, like I'm still gonna watch the movie, but like, oh man, kind of ruined it.
Deflated almost.
Yeah. I'm like, this is like the best movie I've ever seen, and they ruin it. Like what? Yeah, but no, I hear you. Like those, I used to watch a lot of little documentaries on there. I like a lot of the content on Shudder. I think it's a good channel.
Yeah. And I think when they started to produce the VHS movies, they started to push more into other sort of found footage. So when they bring out, I've noticed that when they bring out their own original content or their produced content, that they then also either bring similar stuff, like if they have like a Giallo movie, for example, that they produce. I think one of them was an Argento movie called Dark Glasses.
Yeah.
They brought that out on Shudder, and then they also released like a whole load of other like Giallo movies.
Yeah, I saw that.
Old Argento and stuff like that, and like they have almost like a curated theme, and you can see the sort of theme. Like there was one, and like it was like an Asian horror movie that was coming out. So they had like they put like a bunch of Asian horror. They brought out a documentary about The Ring, like the OG, and the found footage phenomenon. They put that documentary out, and then they put out a bunch of other found footage movies. Like it's really like it's a higher class type of streaming service that I very much appreciate. And now we've been obsessed with found TV. Like we're loving that. Like that's one of our favorites for sure. And we've found so much cool stuff, and that's how we were able to watch what happened to Suzy and had such a great time watching it.
Yeah, well, I really like Louis and Monica at Found TV because their heart's in the right place. They're really filmmakers first, and that's what sets their platform apart. I mean, the thing about streaming is it's not a very lucrative endeavor to begin with. It's you've seen what Spotify did to music, you know. Right. A lot of these streamers are doing the same thing to film. They're really devaluing it. But at least, with Found TV, there's integrity there. There's artistic integrity.
Yeah.
And, we need that more than ever. Everything's been so like corporatized, at this point. That fans of film in general are going to have a lot less options, in 5 to 10 years if people like Louis and Monica don't step up.
They're definitely there for the right reasons, and they're so good with content creators, but they're also so good for filmmakers as well. Like we spoke with Kip Tribble recently, who made Charman, and he was saying about how they like organize like these like meetings and calls with filmmakers to like let them know what's going on and sort of share opportunities, and with the whole creator studio and stuff like that, or the creator program that they have, they're really bringing the filmmaker and the content creator together and really bridging that gap, which I think is fantastic. You really don't see that.
No, you don't. And they're smart to focus on the physical media too, and the merchandise, and they're looking at screenings, and they have like plans outside of just the streaming service. They're really a distribution company, and they have they have that, going back to Southern California, they have that sort of SST sort of approach, which is like, SST was signing some amazing bands. They're also touring bands across the world. They're completely independent though. You know what I mean? There wasn't any of that corporate, bullshit. And well, not there now there is. Unfortunately, that's one of the labels that really kind of like took a sharp turn, but it's just good to see that. It's I get so tired of money. It's just like I'd love to get back to some of the principles, that I grew up on in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, we love them. They're also based in Canada. They're based in Niagara Falls. So
yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I like that.
So it's movie night. You're popping in movie you're watching for the first time, something you're watching that's your favorite. What is your snack setup for your movie night?
I guess it depends on the movie,
Or do you have like a go-to maybe? That's always like something that you fall on?
I've been eating a little healthier these days, so like I'll have like a Kind bar.
Okay, I love Kind bars.
I'll do something like that, you know. Still like popcorn, you know. Still
Mhm.
like a Coke now and then, like a beer now and then. Something about like a warm bowl of soup and crackers, though. I don't know what it is.
Oh,
Okay, okay, that's a
Maybe
good
just-
one.
Maybe because it's rainy outside.
Yeah,
so-
yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I can see that, especially if you're watching something that's like a slow burn and it's a rainy night and it's dark outside. You have that bowl of soup and crackers just to kind of keep you, nice and warm inside, to kind of get you through that slow burn and the effects of the outside of the weather and everything. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
yeah. David's very Texan. He has popcorn and a pickle. That's his go-to.
A pickle, like a large like pickle, or like what kind of pickles are you eating?
So if I'm going to a movie theater, usually here it's a straight dill pickle. It's like one of the big dill pickles.
Okay.
But when I'm at home, I have literally 6 different kinds of pickles in my refrigerator right now. So it can be dill pickle that's whole. It can be baby dills and then sliced up dill pickles, right? But then you start diving into the kosher dills that are either spear shaped, sliced. Then you start running into the spicy ones too, because they start making a spicy dill pickle. Things like that. So
Makes sense. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're a pickle expert.
yeah.
I like pickles. I appreciate pickles. You know what's really good, and you probably have tried this, but maybe not. Maybe I'm about to blow your mind. Have you ever had a peanut butter and pickle sandwich?
I have not. I have heard of it, but I have not crossed that barrier yet.
Ooh, you got to do it. Yeah, and you can do it with all different types of pickles too. I would say the dill pickle works the best.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Okay.
a really surprising flavor combination. It sounds disgusting, but it tastes great.
Yeah, it does sound like unsettling when you say it, because it's 2 different like flavor profiles, because you've got like the dillness and the sour at the same time over here, but then you've got the peanut butter that's
So they
Maybe-
complement each other in a weird way. The tanginess really comes out in the pickle, and the savory really comes out of the peanut butter. It's
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give that a try. Now, the only pickle that I will not eat because I absolutely hate the flavor is they call it bread and butter. I don't know if you've ever heard of those.
Oh
before.
yeah, no, I don't like. I used to like them as a kid, but I don't. Yeah, I don't like bread and butter pickles.
Something about it just doesn't sit well with me.
I don't know. I like a tang. They're kind of sweet. Those bread
Right.
and butter pickles. There's not much going on there. They're kind of, I don't know, like sugary. Not my thing either. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like a straight sweet cucumber. If I were to like compare it to anything, it's just
There you go. It's like a sugared cucumber.
right. Yeah, but those I can't do it. Like the minute that I tried one, I was like, okay, I found a pickle that I don't like. But I mean, any pickle that I've come across, I've loved it. Garlic pickles, things like that. I mean, they're all great.
Well, I want to try the spicy ones. I've never had a spicy one. I'm sure I'd dig that. I like spicy food in general. So
Yeah. So yeah, it's a Texas company here. It's called Best Made, and they make a spicy pickle that they have here. So those are usually the ones that I indulge in the most. But Clausen, what's the other one too? Blossom does
Mhm.
pickles too. So
you eat a lot of friggin' pickles, don't you?
yeah,
I love
yeah.
pickles. Yeah.
The,
You know Pickle Rick? I know Pickle David.
yeah. And that's the thing. Like pickles, like I've tried like pickled onions, pickled garlic. Those I can do, but olives, I absolutely hate olives.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I love olives, but not as a kid. I had to as acquired taste for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Scotland, like fish and chip shops are everywhere. So I used to work in one,
Uh-huh.
and they would have like so many different jars of different pickled stuff, like pickled onions. They'd have like gherkins and stuff. Pickled eggs is
Yeah.
something that I never ever want to try. But
I
there would
did.
be a
I
random
have.
time people would
Out
do
of curiosity, one day I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try one of these pickled eggs. Wasn't that bad. I was surprised. It was better than I thought it would be. But it looks terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
especially when they're in the jars. You know what I mean? Like that, those show up quite a bit in horror films.
Yeah.
They're nasty looking. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
That's and that would be one of the more horrifying things to see. You know, you'll see a hand, you'll see a head, and then you'll see a jar of pickled egg. You're like, oh,
yeah, pickled eggs is like worse. You're like, oh no,
who pickles an egg?
The other one that I can think of right now that I won't do. My dad used to eat them as far back as I can remember as a kid. Is pickled pig's feet.
Oh,
The smell of the jar when you crack it open, you can smell it across the room. It's just like an unsettling smell. It's horrible. And he would just sit there.
Through the bones, or you suck the meat off the bones? Like, what do you?
Yeah,
eat
yeah,
it?
it's like a straight pig's foot, like you would get like at the supermarket, and they would pickle them, and he would just eat the meat off of them, and the bone of the foot would just be there. He would just discard it.
Throw it to the dog or something.
Yeah,
God, that's weird. That I don't get that at all. But your dad, where'd he grow up?
he's here from San Antonio, Texas too. He was here.
Oh, so
born and raised.
it's like a Texas thing. I was gonna say, like when you go further in California, you go further down south, you'll see more of that kind of stuff. Pork rinds, yeah, that's one, right? Yeah,
That's a common one here too. Is pork skins? Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I don't know. See, I'm a vegetarian, so
Oh, okay.
it's extra gross to me.
Yeah, so we when me and my sister were young, she was part of this like drama school, and we got this opportunity to go on a kids TV show, and out of all the people, they picked her to go and sit and try pig's ears.
Ooh.
Like it was like out of like a jar. It was like this whole like little
I've seen
weird
it. Yeah.
tasting segment where they like try different weird stuff, and she had to eat a pig's ear on children's television.
What?
Yeah, that was weird, man.
In
Kids TV in
Canada or
the UK is
Scotland?
something else.
Where
Sorry?
did this happen? Was this in Canada or Scotland?
No, this was in Scotland. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this was in Scotland. She was part of this like drama school, and they like had this opportunity, and she was kind of like, "Can my brother come?" And I was like, all right, okay. We had to get up at like 4 a.m. to go over because they were recording it. It was going to show later on that day, and then yeah, I had to dress up as an elephant carrying a prize for some game show, and then they had these weird like pop stars like performing. And we had to be in the crowd and like look like entertained. It was like they were lip syncing. It was back when they were doing that.
Was this like a Nickelodeon style?
Yeah, kind of like it, like
Okay,
that. Yeah,
sounds like it. All right.
yeah.
Wow.
Scotland had their
Definitely
own
not
version of
Sesame
things.
No, not a Sesame Street kind of children's show. This is more.
No. Unfortunately, no. It was
It's like a
it was like a kids variety show.
Yeah.
sounds like a mashup of Nickelodeon and PBS, like just mashed together.
Yeah, it felt very PBS. Yeah.
Yeah, and Fear Factor. You know?
Right. Yeah. I wish Joe Rogan was there. That would have been the fucking awesome. But yeah, fear was not a factor for her that day. That's for sure. She ate it. But yeah.
She did. She ate it.
Yeah, she ate it. She ate it
Put
on
a
TV.
cartilage in there. Like, can you eat the whole thing, or you just like suck off the?
Yeah, well, it was like a whole like ear, so there was no like real bone on it.
Yeah,
it was
so-
it was mostly kind of fleshy, kind of pointy. Like she didn't take a big bite, but she kind of nibbled at it a couple of times. But she and then they had to like redo it a couple of times, so she had to do it again.
You got to get the close up and the insert and all that good
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah. And kids TV was barbaric back in the day.
Now be sure and finish your ear.
I mean, that's just like we got to eat all the animal. Can't let anything go to waste.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I can respect that. But,
Yeah.
oof, I don't
Give
know.
it to the kids.
Yeah. Jeez.
Oh, yeah, fun times. But yeah, this was great. Thank you so much, James, for first reaching out. We were really happy that you reached out to us to kind of put us in that motion to check out the movie. We were going to do it anyway, but and most likely reach out to you. But this was is a perfect way for us to see it, and we've had an absolute blast, and definitely we'll keep in contact. Let us know anything that you want to let people know, like any upcoming events. Of course, we were speaking about the Toronto Independent Horror Festival. Any other events or anything that people should check out?
Well, just if you're in Toronto or you're in the area, definitely check out the let's see here. Let me get the name of it right. The Toronto Indie Horror Fest. I'll be selling pan and scan versions of What Happened to Suzy. This comes directly from the digital master, so it looks different than the version on Found TV. I actually have a few different versions. This is my favorite version. I think the movie really works well as a full screen 4:3 pan and scan. So there's only 15 VHS tapes. I will be manufacturing more VHS tapes, but these are props from the film that are actually in the background. So that I taped on. So kind of fun, just a fun little thing. And then I'm finishing up a second feature called Can't Wake Up. This is a supernatural horror film. It's not in the found footage genre. I have probably another month on it to go. I'm pretty close. So, got that. And I got a screenplay ready to go if anybody has $2 million. Called It Fell to Earth. It's an action horror film. And then what I'll probably have to do in the meantime, because it's going to take a while to raise those kinds of funds, is I have another found footage called Lady of the Woods, and it's another supernatural horror film. More in the vein of Blair Witch, something I've been developing for a while. About halfway through with the screenplay. So yeah, I got some projects lined up. So we'll see what happens.
Some good stuff coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me pitch.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you, James. Take care. Have a good rest of your weekend.
All right. You as well.
Hey guys, that's all from us here today at We Found a Tape. Be sure to follow us on our socials at We Found a Tape and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Tune in next time to see what tape we find next. And remember, be kind and rewind.